Did you see the Maricopa hearings about the election? Anybody watch the video from that? So in Maricopa, there were public hearings before they certified the election. It was the Kerry Lake versus Hobbs one where Kerry Lake lost according to the certification. Now, they did certify it, but not until listening to the public just rake the officials for what a bad job they did. And when you hear all the anecdotal reports of these are unconfirmed things, it's just people talking, so it's anecdotal, but the anecdotal reports are just vicious. If you hear them out of context, without the officials responding to why it's not such a big problem, if you hear it out of context, it just sounds like the whole election was just totally just screwed the pooch, like nothing about it was credible. But here's the part that I want to summarize. If you knew that the difference between a Republican and a Democrat victory was how inconvenient it was to vote on election day, because Democrats vote by mail more often, if you could make voting on the day of a little bit inconvenient, wouldn't that be enough to throw the election? That's all it would take, right? You simply have to make sure that it doesn't go smoothly on the day of, and that's it. Now, you remember those machines that had been tested, and yet it turned out that they were poorly calibrated for the ink that was on the ballots? Do you think anybody would be smart enough to know that if they tweaked that calibration ahead of time, just make it a little bit below the level, that it might take hours to figure out what's wrong and correct it, and in those hours, a lot of Republicans would give up and leave the line? That would be a pretty straightforward prediction, wouldn't it? If we can just make the lines longer on election day, that's all we need. Because people don't have infinite time. They vote during the workday, and some of them just need to say, fuck it, I'm going home. So it looks to me, without any proof of this, right? It looks to me like the inefficiency was the feature, not the accident. And it's being treated like a feature, not an accident, because they're not trying to fix it. Right? If you saw some big move from Maricopa to say, my God, we've got to change this system. We've got to make sure nothing like this ever happens. So here's what we're going to do to fix all of this. No. As far as I know, they plan to run the next election in the same way. I'm just going to guess, but I'll bet you the next election has some long lines and some unexpected technical problems that don't look like any rigged election at all. It's just, hey, it's technology. Technology sometimes is a little bit tweaked wrong. No big deal. It's sort of normal. You'd expect a few hiccups in exactly the right place. So we got the most problems in the place that would actually change the election. There were other places that had problems too. But that was kind of a coincidence, wasn't it? That the one place that would definitely change things, that place had little problems, long lines. And as many times as they checked the machines the night before, how weird that they didn't work the very next day. How weird. Yeah. I don't know. Here's my take. Here's my take on the elections. Guilty until proven innocent. Guilty until proven innocent. That's my standard. And to me, they look guilty. So let's see if I get kicked off of social media. YouTube, and the whoever's watching me on YouTube and decides whether to monetize me, it is my opinion that the credibility of the last election is below the level in which you should accept it. Now, I don't have any specific claim about a specific bad shenanigans. I'm just saying that the overall situation with which we've been presented doesn't appear designed to make us believe it. It doesn't seem designed for us to believe it. It's designed for us not to believe it, which causes more problems for Republicans, right? What's the worst case scenario for Republicans? An election they say they don't believe. Right? That was the trap. It's the perfect trap. If we can trap those Republicans into doubting a second election, everybody's going to think that they're not good citizens. Right? So, YouTube, I don't know who did what. I'm making no specific allegations of bad behavior. I'm simply saying that if you look at the design, which is intentional, the intentional design is to make it less credible. So I accept what I've been told. The officials have given me a non-credible election by design, intentionally, by design, and so I accept what they've given me. It's not credible. So I reject the 2022 election. In my opinion, I don't have a specific allegation. It was presented to us in a way that we're being told not to believe it. And so I accept the message. It would be easy to say, here's what we're doing to make you feel more comfortable with the result. But I don't see that. If you had that, I'd say, oh, you're designing the system to make me feel comfortable with the result. I get that. Now I do feel more comfortable. But if you design it in a way, the design is very clearly to make us less comfortable with the result. Because they know how to do it the other way, right? Do you think there's any doubt among the professionals how to make the election completely unquestionable? Yeah, just paper ballots, count them the same day, have witnesses. It's easy. There's no question about how to do it. So it's a choice. And it's a choice that both sides appear to be making. So if both sides are making the choice to have non-credible looking elections, you as a consumer should take the message and say, oh, you're presenting us a non-credible election, we'll accept it as a non-credible election. Now, having said that, I agree with certifying it. I agree with certifying it. Same reason I agreed with moving on when Trump allegedly lost in 2020. Because you do have to move on. You do have to move on. And that's a separate question from fixing the problem. You have to fix the problem, but sometimes you just have to move on too.